Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Crime Rewind. My name is Jen Marie, and today's case that we're going to be doing is actually two cases, two women, Aaliyah Banderas and Pauline Cerasoli, and we're actually on location at the Westin Peachtree Plaza Hotel in downtown Atlanta on Peachtree Street, and I'm actually right now currently in a room where a lady was murdered. So I was able to actually get to the room that she was killed in, and I want to report that there was no weird activity last night as far as hauntings or anything like that. And actually, it wasn't. This may seem bad, but it doesn't feel weird at all or creepy or anything like that. So it actually went last night went pretty well, except for the fact that this hotel sucks. It really does. Don't waste your money. It's so expensive, and I've stayed at nicer hotels that were way cheaper. So my recommendation, there's no recommendation for this, for the Westin. Sorry, Westin, Marriott, whatever. But I don't like this hotel at all. I really don't. Probably a lot of it has to do with the pandemic, the coronavirus going on right now, but they don't let you do anything here. Couldn't even go up in the glass elevators. There's glass elevators on the outside that go up to the Sundial, which is the revolving restaurant at the top. But they won't even let you go up the elevators. The TV doesn't work. I mean, the water in the bathroom in the shower is either scalding hot or freezing cold. There's no warm option. I hope that's not Aaliyah haunting the room. I don't believe in ghosts, so I don't think so. But it's just, there's just so many things that have already that shouldn't be going wrong in a high class hotel. So that's a side note. I wanted to say that. And I also want to say that as we discuss this case further, I want to put in a disclaimer that I'm not going to get too much into detail about how they were murdered. I'm going to state the facts though. And if you're queasy or squeamish at all, I'm not going to say too much, and there's definitely not going to be any pictures or anything like that. So, but I do want to say that it's going to get slightly uncomfortable or graphic. So I wanted to say that. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to do a tour of the hotel, and I'm going to film the inside. I'm going to show you the inside of this room, which is room 6010, that is on the 60th floor of this hotel, and this is where Aaliyah Banderas, who was a housekeeping employee, an employee of the Westin, and she did housekeeping, where she was killed on December 31st, 1995. So I'm going to give you a tour of the room, and then I'll try to show you. I'll just try to give a tour, a little bit of maybe the inside of the hotel, and just certain things that I will show you that are important in this case. So let's go ahead and do that, and then I'll see you back here. Bye. The room that we're staying in is 6010. This is all our stuff. So by the door, but we're gonna go in here. Yeah, we're gonna go in here, 6010. Okay, so you go in here, and immediately to the right is the bathrooms. And then we have a giant floor-to-ceiling mirror, and then here is the closet. You have your standard ironing board and safe and things like that. This is the closet that is right behind, you know, the door to the hotel. Okay, this room has 2 queen beds, and it is messy because we have already slept in them. TV doesn't work. Bench, table, chair, another chair which is highly uncomfortable. Bed. Here is the view from the Westin. It makes me kind of dizzy. That's Peachtree Street right there that goes in front of the hotel. This is Atlanta, y'all. You know, there's one of the glass elevators. That's the outside glass elevator. But this is Atlanta right now. You can see Stone Mountain from here even. Clear in the distance, you can see Stone Mountain. This is downtown Atlanta. Got George Power Building right there. That's pretty tall. I'm not quite. This might be One Atlantic Center. I'm not quite sure what building that is. You got the Marriott right there. Yeah, the building's cool too. But yeah, we are on this, like I said, the 60th floor. It's pretty high up. Okay, now this is the room, guys, that Aaliyah Banderas was murdered in. The housekeeper who worked for the Westin Peachtree Plaza. She was murdered in this room. She was found in between the 2 beds, face down. She had been bludgeoned with what they think the attacker used the telephone receiver, which I'm also going to show you guys that this is a telephone they have in here now. Obviously, it's cordless. There's no cord, and it's really light. It's not like the old school telephones that used to be around. So, and she was also strangled with the telephone cord, which obviously is no longer in the room. But she was found right here. On the floor, there were lots of blood, apparently. They also found blood on the carpet in front of this closet, right behind the door. So, okay, that's the room. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. Okay, 6010, and then right outside the door is the bank of elevators. Now there's 6 elevators right outside the room. Right outside 6010, there's 6 elevators. So, I'm going to take you on a little tour of this floor. Now, as you can see, and here is the stairs. This is stairwell A. Okay. But it's in a circle. It's in a very tight circle, so you can't really see around the corner. But this is the stairs. Okay. That goes up, obviously. So we're gonna come back to these stairs in a minute. Okay, continue on. Okay. Okay, these are the service elevators for housekeeping, probably room service, things like that. Okay, here's the ice machine. Okay, so there's 20, see here's 60-20. So 60-20, and then it starts back at 60-01. So there's 20 rooms to a floor. Here's stairwell B. Stairwell B. There's 2 doors to stairwell B. Okay. Here's the stairs. This exits out onto International Boulevard. So this stairwell B is International Boulevard. It exits out onto, which is a parallel street to Peachtree Street. Okay. Yeah. Okay, and then you see here we are, full circle. Say hi, Bella. You're going to be on film. That's my daughter, everybody. My producer. So we're back here at 60-10. See, it was a big giant circle. So, apparently, I'm not sure. The attacker did not take the elevators, okay? But I'm not sure if he took, see, this exits out to the 4th floor. So the other stairwell B exits out onto International Boulevard. So International Boulevard goes straight to a street, or stairwell B goes straight to a street. Stairwell A ends at the 4th floor of the hotel. So if I had to guess, I mean, I would imagine that he would take stairwell B, but that's kind of awkward to get to. It's like the opposite end of the circle, opposite side of the circle. So I'm not sure which stairwell he took, but I am going to go down. I'm going to go down stairwell B because it makes more sense to me, but I could be wrong. So we're going to do that in a second. Okay. Hey guys. I'm going to now try to take the route. I said earlier that I was going to take, because there's 2 stairwells. Stairwell B, which goes ends at International Boulevard, which is the street parallel to Peachtree Street, and stairwell A, it stops at the 4th floor. Now, I said I was going to take stairwell B, but now I'm thinking stairwell A makes more sense now to me. They both make sense, honestly, because stairwell B ends out on the street, so that would be better for him as far as making a getaway and not having to see any employees in the hotel. Stairwell A makes sense, however, when it comes to simple location, because there's the room where she was killed, and then stairwell A is right here. So it makes more sense for him to just, if he's panicking, to make more sense to just take the first thing he sees, which is stairwell A. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take stairwell A. I'm not going to film that. Okay, so going down. Thank God I don't have to climb up, because that would not happen. Okay, here's 58th floor. Seventh floor. Fifty-sixth floor. Oh, someone's been eating chicken wings. Ew, those people are nasty. Okay, now this is the 55th floor. Now this floor, the killer made a stop at. Yes, exactly. Okay, here's the fire alarm that he probably pulled. That makes so much sense now. Electrical storage. This is the 55th floor. This is where, right after her murder, the fire alarm on the 55th floor was pulled. So that makes so much sense right now, because it's right there as soon as you come out of the stairwell. It's right there. So, and then he took the stairs again. So I'm walking around a circle. I shouldn't have done that. There's the elevators, service elevators. Let's go back. See, fire alarm. Okay. Okay. So the killer, he ran down the stairs from the 60th floor to the 55th floor, went right out of the door, pulled the fire alarm, went back in the steps, And then also use the door at the 54th level right here. For whatever reason, no one knows. So this is the 54th level. Okay, but police found blood on the doorway here. They found blood on the doorway here. And they also found blood on the 55th stairwell door. So, but other than that, they didn't find anything else. So, I'm not quite sure how we got out. If it was, that's weird, creepy Stephen King shit right there. We don't know how he got out. If it was, he continued down the stairs. Like I said, stairwell B goes to International Boulevard. Goes directly to the street. Stairwell A dead ends on the fourth floor. So, you know. Hey, welcome back, guys. It's Jen Marie, and I want to tell you about the giant mistake the giant rookie mistake that I actually made. We were at the Westin filming, and I filmed the entire thing, and then I was in such a hurry to check out of the room. I didn't double check the footage. I definitely didn't back up the footage, and got home and found out that most of the footage is missing. I don't know what happened to it. It either got erased accidentally or record was never pressed, which I don't know how that would happen, but I don't know. All I know is it's missing, so I need to obviously refilm. So I'm going to try my best to remember everything that I said. I think I can communicate most of what I had said in the Westin videos. And also, if you hear screaming or door slamming or anything like that, those are all of my rugrats running around the house. There's no soundproofing yet. I don't have anything like that. So just to warn you, I'm not torturing people here. This is just my kids normally on a normal day. So let's go ahead and get started. So first, I'm going to talk about the actual Westin as it is now, and I'm going to give you some logistics on how the Westin is set up. The Westin Peachtree Plaza in downtown Atlanta has 1,073 rooms. It first opened on February 27th, 1976, and it is 723 feet high, which is pretty darn tall. And right now, it is Atlanta's fourth largest hotel. It was designed by an architect named John Portman, and I actually think I saw, maybe a month or two ago, saw a news article where he actually passed away recently in Atlanta. So I think he was in his 80s, late 80s, early 90s maybe. He actually passed away from natural causes. So, but John Portman, he designed many of the buildings in Atlanta, and I think he also designed buildings in big cities in the southeastern United States. So he was pretty well known. His style was pretty well known. So he actually built the Westin in the way it was, or he built the Westin to help with the traffic that's from the America's Mart, which is a wholesale giant not a convention, but they only open a couple times a year, and it's wholesale, like booths that businesses come and sell to other businesses. So there's actually a lot of traffic from that in downtown Atlanta. So the Westin was built to help accommodate all the people visiting for this America's Mart. So the Westin was built on the site that was where the original Georgia governor's mansion once stood. That building, the governor's mansion, was demolished in 1923, and a hotel called the Henry Grady Hotel was erected, which was later replaced by the Westin. So when the Westin opened, it was the tallest building in Atlanta until 1987, when another building called One Atlantic Center surpassed it. So it was the tallest building in Atlanta for a while. Today it is the fifth. It's the fifth tallest building in Atlanta, and it's still the tallest hotel in the southeastern United States. So that's pretty cool. Another interesting thing about the Westin, 1981, it was actually the backdrop for a Hollywood film called Sharky's Machine, and that was starred Burt Reynolds. I've never seen the movie. I don't know. Someone else told me that it was pretty cool. But apparently I read about one scene in the movie where there's actually a stunt double that does a free fall, not from the Westin. They make it seem like it's from the Westin, but it's actually from another hotel that's not as tall. But it's like the first free fall without any ropes or any gear, I guess, to stop them from getting hurt. It's the first free fall by a stunt double to that height, from that height. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I haven't seen it though, so it sounds pretty scary. But and then another thing that happened in the Westin was I was here for this, but I wasn't in downtown Atlanta. But there was a tornado that came through in 2008 that went right down Peachtree Street, like right through downtown Atlanta, and it really messed some things up. It destroyed 6,350 of the Westin's 6,500 windows. So, and I know it took the Westin a long time to, I think the problem with their windows, because all the windows are curved because it's a round hotel. So I think the problem that they ran into was the manufacturer, the company that they had gotten their windows from no longer made that exact style of window anymore. They did have, so they couldn't get them. But I think they tried another company and they did have the windows, but the thing is that because of rain and sun and wear and tear over the years, the new windows would have looked different next to the remaining windows that were left. So they ended up having to replace all the windows in the Westin just so they would be uniformly the same. So this kicked off actually a $70 million renovation that spanned 6 years. So $70 million renovation. That's a lot of money. So after they finally finished replacing all the windows, the guest rooms, they decided to redo all the guest rooms. So the guest rooms were gutted and redone. Then the hotel's restaurant with the sundial that sits at the top of the Westin, they redid the sundial. And then after that, the Westin redid their lobby, and I think they redid their ballrooms and the meeting spaces. So, and by the time they were done with all that, it was 6 years. It took 6 years to do that. So, and also over the years, several big name guests have stayed there. Mick Jagger, who is you should know who Mick Jagger is, the lead singer of the Rolling Stones. Also Ringo Starr, who was a member of the Beatles. James Brown, Ray Charles, I'm not going to tell you who they are because you should know. Also in 2012, former President Barack Obama actually held a fundraising campaign at the Westin in 2012. So I think that's pretty cool. I actually wasn't aware of that happened. Floors 1 through 4 contain parking spaces for over 1,000 cars, and I know this from staying there that's valet only. They don't have parking. They don't give you parking. You have to get valet or park at your own risk in downtown Atlanta, and the valet parking is $50 a night. So that's the 4 floors of parking. That's only for valet. Just to let you know. Floor 5 is the lobby, which is huge, okay? Floors 6 through 14 contain meeting spaces in the ballrooms, and then floors 15 through 70 include 1,068 guests. 14 contain meeting spaces and ballrooms, and then floors 15 through 70 include 1,068 guest rooms. Floors 71, 73, which are the 3 top floors, because there's 73 floors, contain the Sundial, which is a revolving restaurant, and also there is an observation deck, which they have telescopes, free telescopes, so I think like 4 of them that you can use for free to look out at Atlanta. They wouldn't let us, I couldn't get up there. They wouldn't even let us up to the observation deck. or in the glass elevators. They wouldn't let us do anything. So I wanted to get some footage from up there, but unfortunately they wouldn't let us go up there. So, who on you, Westin? Like I said, on this site where the Westin stands now, there used to be the Executive Mansion of Georgia, and that housed the state's governors and their families. And I don't know how many governors they housed in total before it was torn down. I think at least 17 or 18 governors stayed in there before it was eventually torn down. Now I'm going to tell you about an interesting story that I came across from a newspaper from it was like 1920 something or 1918 or something like that. A very old newspaper. Is really cool. But or 1908. In 1908, there were reports actually from the current occupants of the mansion, which was the family of then Governor Hoke Smith. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's H-O-K-E. I think that's how you pronounce it. I've never heard that name before, but Hoke Smith, that they had witnessed on many occasions a ghostly gray figure of a young woman. And she appeared at all hours of the night, apparently. The ghost first appeared to the daughter of the family. Her name was Mary Brent Smith. And then a few nights later, the ghost appeared to both the daughter and the mother, because the mother didn't believe her daughter when she said that she had seen a ghost. She didn't believe her. But then a couple nights later, the mother actually saw the ghost too. So she became a believer. But after those two initial sightings, apparently the ghost she appeared quite frequently. So yeah, so everyone came to be a believer. But the spirit is actually thought to be that of Alice G. Price, which she was the niece of Governor Allen D. Candler, who had been in office from 1898 to 1902. And the niece was actually staying with her aunt and uncle in the governor's mansion. So unfortunately, Alice had become ill on January 4th, 1899, and then passed away at the mansion on January 14th of typhoid fever. So, and I don't know how old she was, because the newspaper article that I read didn't say how old she was, but she was young. She was really young. And then I think from the article that I read, some people were blaming, or maybe it was her family blaming the fact that she had typhoid fever and died from typhoid fever, was she had somehow gotten it from the house itself. Like, the house was apparently so decrepit and in such disrepair. And plus, back then, I mean, I don't know what kind of water source they had, well water maybe, but you can't get typhoid fever that way. So I don't know. They were blaming it on maybe the water source in the house or something else, like the wood, or I don't know. But you can't get typhoid fever that way. So I don't know. I don't know how they figured out how she got it, or if they even did. But she did pass away from typhoid fever. So they think that she was the ghost. The governor's mansion, however, was torn down in 1923 because of the building's poor condition. It was so it wasn't in good shape. So they went ahead and tore it down. And like I said, the Henry Grady Hotel was erected. So now we're going to talk. That was the information I have on that site, the building site. Now we're going to get into the case. We're going to talk about Aaliyah Banderas first. She was the maid, the housekeeper. I hate the word maid, so I'm going to try to call her housekeeper. Yeah, she was the housekeeper that worked at the Westin Peachtree Plaza, and she was only 31 years old when she was killed. So she was working her shift. Actually, this was in the middle of the day. Probably around noon, I think. She was only into her shift a couple hours when she was actually attacked. She was discovered in room 6010, which is the room that I stayed in. She was discovered in that room, 6010, by guests who had actually rented that room, who had that room. They were actually out doing, what you do in downtown Atlanta. They were out, and she had went to clean the room and had been attacked. So they returned to their room, and discovered her. So she had actually been beaten severely, most likely, like I said, with the telephone landline receiver, and then she had also been strangled with the telephone cord, which I showed you. The telephone obviously is different, and no more cord, and the receiver is extremely light. So, at one point in 1995, the telephones were different back then. They were a lot heavier. And then I also said, I showed you where her body was in between the two queen beds on the floor. So, and how she was discovered was the guests were actually, they were returning to their room, and they tried to get in the door, and they couldn't, their key wasn't working. They tried to get in the door, open the door wasn't opening. So either, they think that either something was blocking the door, or the attacker was holding the door shut. But I think the way those rooms are now, I mean, like I said, I don't know how they were back then, but if you put from the inside, if you put the deadbolt on, you won't be able to open it with a key. I mean, I don't think you can't open it with a key. So it could have been that. But they were trying to get into the room for quite a bit, for a few minutes, and finally the door flew open, and a man shoved his way past these two women and like ran down the hallway. So he actually had his jacket. They at least saw that he was a white male, but he had his jacket pulled up over his head, so they couldn't really see his face, and he just ran past them and around, down the hallway. And it's, like I said, it's a round building, so the hallway is you can't see around the corner. I mean, it's very difficult. You can't see. Now, Aaliyah, like I said, she was only 31 years old, so she's pretty young. She was actually born in Mexico. She immigrated to the United States, and she went to California. She lived there for a while before she moved to Atlanta, and she had only been here in Atlanta for a couple months before she died. And just a couple months she moved here, so she hadn't been here that long. She had a partner, not married. She wasn't married to him, but she had 3 young children, and her 3 young kids were by her partner, because they have his last name. So she had a partner, Cesar Molina, and I'm sorry if I'm not saying that right. I'm trying. I think it's Cesar Molina, and he actually stayed. It's weird. He stayed on the West Coast. He stayed in California while her and the kids came here. So I don't know. I think maybe they were taking a break or something, or maybe he stayed out there for job opportunities, and she came here. I mean, I'm not sure. Who knows? I don't want to speculate, but he stayed there on the West Coast, and she came here with their 3 kids, and they were staying. Actually, she had relatives here. She had family here that lived in the suburbs of Metro Atlanta. So they were actually staying with the relatives, and she was working at the Westin. But when she was killed, Cesar actually, the police contacted her partner, and Cesar flew into Atlanta, and he was interviewed by police, but he was never considered a suspect, obviously, because he had an airtight alibi. He was not even in the state. He was in a different time zone, so he was never considered a suspect. And apparently, when he did interviews with reporters, he was extremely upset. He was extremely emotional, and obviously very upset. So I mean, everybody knows that he didn't do it. He didn't do anything. So he's definitely been cleared as having anything to do with this. So after her death, I know that her 3 children actually did stay here in Atlanta. I don't know why they didn't go back with her father, or if he went back to the West Coast and they stayed here. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why he wouldn't take them, but like I said, I don't want to speculate. I'm sure it's a tragedy to deal with. So poor kids. But they stay here. I don't know where they are now. I hope they're doing okay. They probably stayed with relatives. They were staying at here in Atlanta. But I don't know what happened to them. I do know their names, but I'm not going to say their names just so they can have privacy. But I just hope they're doing okay. They were pretty little. There was a funeral service held for her in Sandy Springs for all the relatives that were here. But then her body was sent back to Mexico City, which is where her parents lived, and they buried her there in Mexico City. Okay, like I said, Aaliyah had been murdered. She had been murdered in the middle of the day. It was around noon, or a little bit after. The hotel was actually full. It wasn't filled to capacity, but it was really full because this was around the New Year. So, just because of partiers in downtown Atlanta. And also there's this thing in Atlanta that happens every year at the same time, New Year's Eve. It's called the Peach Bowl. And that is a pretty popular collegiate football game around here. There's the Peach Bowl, and then they also have a parade, a New Year's Eve day parade that winds its way down Peachtree Street and right past the Westin, because Westin is on Peachtree Street. So this parade was actually going on at the same exact time that Aaliyah was being murdered, 60 floors up in the Westin. At the same time this parade was going on. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being someone who's down there in the parade and watching it or in it, and like at the same time, if people only knew, like at the same time, just 60 stories above them, a lady was getting killed. Like that's horrible to think about, that, stuff like that happens. Like when you're just doing everyday, your normal thing, and then this tragic thing that happened at the same time, and no one even knew. It's weird to think about. But yeah, there was a parade going on at the same time. And police say that they don't think robbery was the motive, because nothing had been stolen from the room. There's not really much you would be able to steal from the room, I don't think, but nothing else had been touched or stolen from the room. Nothing had been taken from Aaliyah's body. Like, I don't know what her uniform was back then, or what she wore, like as part of the uniform. I didn't see any housekeepers when we were there. I didn't see any, so I wouldn't be able to tell you what they wore, whether it was a skirt or pants, or I'm not sure, but and what she carried on her, if she had a wallet or money or whatever, but nothing was taken off her body. Did you hear that? Slamming doors. She was still fully clothed, and the police said there was no sexual assault whatsoever. She was still fully clothed. So her skull had actually been fractured. That's how hard she was beaten. Her skull had been fractured, and blood had actually pooled between the beds near her body. And they also found patches of blood on the carpet in front of that closet behind the door that I showed you. That closet, there was lots of blood on the carpet right in front of the closet. So I'm not sure why that is. What I can figure, my thought on it is that when he got interrupted, I guess, because the guests came back to the room and they were trying to get into their room, and I think he started panicking because there's no other way out. It's 60 floors up, and it's all glass. There's no other way out. I don't even think in that room there was an adjoining door. I could be wrong. But anyways, those are locked. So, yeah, he had no way out, and he was panicking because they were trying to get in the room, and there was no other escape. So I think maybe there were patches of blood on because he was pacing back and forth, panicking. Is the only thing I could figure why there would be patches of blood on the carpet in front of the closet, because the closet's right by the door of the room. So maybe he was just pacing back and forth and like freaking out, because he didn't know what to do. So that's when he decided to open the door and run for it, because that was his only option, Okay, after the man had attacked Aaliyah and shoved his way past the guests and ran down the hallway out of sight, he ran down through the stairs. He didn't take the elevators. He ran down the stairs and then made a stop on the 55th floor to pull the fire alarm. And as I showed you on the video at the Westin, the fire alarm is right outside the stairwell door, so that makes sense that he was trying to create either a diversion. He was trying to create a diversion, or he was making it easier to blend in, because if the fire alarm is pulled and all the guests and all the staff have to vacate the building, he could blend in with the people that are trying to leave the building. And like I said, it was very crowded. The hotel was pretty full. So, and not only that, but there was a parade going on outside. So he could have blended in with the hotel guests trying to leave the hotel because of the fire alarm being pulled. And then once he got to the street, he could blend in with the people on the street watching the parade. So he decided to make that. So he wasn't a dummy. I mean, I don't think that none of this is planned, but he definitely was able to think on his feet, as far as how to escape. Because I don't think he had planned to be interrupted or planned for the guests to try to get back into that room. So, but he was obviously able to think on his feet, and so he pulled a fire alarm on the 55th floor. And the police also said they found blood smears on the stairwell doorway on the 55th floor and also on the 54th floor. So I'm not sure if he had, but they didn't find blood anywhere else. So like on none of the other stairwell doors, and they didn't find blood on the railings or on the stairwell steps or anything. So I'm not sure if he got off or like left this 54th, the stairs on the 54th floor and got out of the stairs there, and then decided to take the elevator down maybe, and then exited that way, because there's many entrances and exits to the Westin. Not only that, but in order to go up to from the lobby to your room, you do need a hotel key to take the elevator, but to get back down, you do not. So if he probably took the stairs. He had to have taken the stairs to get up that high to the 60th floor. But in order to get back down, he didn't need a hotel room key. So he could have done it that way. He could have taken the stairs from the 60th floor down to the 54th, and then from there took the elevator down. So that's what he could have done. But because they didn't find blood in the rest of the stairwell. So that's where I'm thinking he decided to stop using the stairs. It was on the 54th floor. Aaliyah had also, they discovered that Aaliyah had fought back. She fought back hard. She tried to save herself, and so she was a tough one. She definitely fought back, because they found his blood. He was bleeding from an unknown injury. So she caused an unknown injury on her attacker. And so they found his DNA. They found his DNA on the blood smears and the stairwell doors. They found his DNA in blood found in the room. And they also found in Aaliyah's hand a clump of brownish blonde hair from her killer. So, I mean, she fought back. And so they have his DNA. They have his DNA. I mean, because he left it everywhere. His blood, his hair, he left it everywhere. So, and here's the messed up thing. A few days thereafter Aaliyah's murder, another housekeeper at the Westin was working her shift, and she actually entered a linen closet on the 64th floor. 64th floor, which is where Pauline was attacked. Pauline Cerasoli, the other victim. She had a room on the 64th floor. It was room 6414, and a housekeeper had went into a linen closet on the 64th floor and found odd things in this linen closet. She found it was filled with items that gave the impression that someone had been staying in this linen closet, lived in there, and which makes me wonder how often they use these linen closets. I mean, but there was lots of evidence to say that someone had been living in there. The items found in this linen closet were articles of men's clothing. There were cigarette butts. There were discarded food wrappers. Also, there were discovered several different hotel room keys, guest keys, like card keys. And there had also been a bed fashioned out of hotel bed sheets. There had been a pallet, whatever, made on the floor for a bed out of the bed sheets. So they collected DNA and collected all that evidence and sent it to the lab along with all the evidence and DNA from Aaliyah's crime scene. So they have this man's DNA on file. They do. Now, there were various witnesses who saw this man, not just the two guests that were coming back into the room, but other witnesses that had seen this man. And they describe him as being a white male, around 25 years old, 5'7", which is not very tall for a man. 5'7", with a thin to medium build. He was wearing light blue jeans, a blue denim jacket, and a red shirt. His hair was pulled back in a short ponytail, and it was brownish with streaks of blonde. So, and that's the description. Now, I tried really hard to find a composite sketch because I assumed they had one made. I couldn't find this composite sketch anywhere. I couldn't find it. So I really tried to get a composite sketch, but I couldn't find one. Okay, and now we're going to talk about Pauline Cerasoli, who was attacked a couple months after Elia was killed. She was actually attacked on February 16th of 1996. So Aaliyah was killed in December, the end of December 1995. And then Pauline was attacked February 16th of 1996. Pauline was 56 years old, and she was assaulted in her room on the 64th floor. Once again, in the middle of the day. This was the middle of the day. But this time, and the authorities, they definitely think there's so many similar things. That's why they think it's the same person that did these attacks. The one thing this time that's different is the assailant brought a weapon with him this time, and then took it with him. He brought a weapon with him, used it to attack Pauline, and then took it with him. So they never found a weapon at the crime scene, and that is the one thing that's different about that attack. So maybe he decided from attacking Aaliyah that's what he was going to do, you know. So I mean, it makes me think that Pauline's attack was planned. You know, Aaliyah's may not have been, but Pauline's attack definitely was planned if the attacker brought a weapon with him. And like I said, Pauline's attack bore like startling similarities to Aaliyah's. Neither had been sexually assaulted. They both were fully clothed. They hadn't been sexually assaulted. Both were beaten and strangled. Now, I'm not sure what Pauline was strangled with, if it wasn't the phone cord, the landline phone cord. I'm not sure what she had been strangled with. But there was also nothing stolen. There was nothing stolen from either room, and also from the victim themselves. There was nothing taken. So after she was attacked, her family, she was originally from Vermont. I think she had been living in Denver, Colorado, but she had originally been from Vermont, and her family, I think her family was all still they were in Vermont. So her family in Vermont was called, and they flew down to be with her. They all flew down after she was attacked, and I'm pretty sure the attacker assumed that he had killed her. I mean, he really messed her up, so I think he assumed that she was dead. But she wasn't. She didn't die. So after she was attacked, she was taken to Grady Hospital, which is the downtown. It's the local hospital that's down in downtown Atlanta. And she had a crushed skull, not just fractured, crushed. She had crushed skull. She had suffered significant brain damage, brain trauma, bruising all over her face and neck. She actually had a broken orbital bone, which is the eye socket. You know, the orbital bone. A smashed orbital bone. It was like, I don't know which one, but a smashed orbital bone. And her nephew actually, when he saw her, said that she wasn't recognizable as Pauline. Like if they wouldn't have known who she was, that was their relative, they wouldn't have known, because she was that beaten, severely beaten, was that she was unrecognizable. So she was actually hooked up to life support machines. And the doctors had told her family that she wasn't expected to live through the night. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how she made it. I mean, but she was so horribly beaten that she was on life support, and they were like, she's not going to make it. So that's why her family flew down, because that's what they told her family, was that she wasn't going to live through the night. But she did. She remained at Grady Hospital, actually, for 2 weeks. She was in a coma. She was in a coma for several weeks in Grady Hospital. And she was, after 2 weeks, moved up north to Vermont area. I'm not sure if it was in Vermont, or I know she was in Massachusetts. She was in Boston at a long-term care facility. I think she ended up being in a New Hampshire long-term care facility. So they moved her up north so she could be around family that would help her. But she was so injured that she couldn't go back to her life that she had. She couldn't go back to that. So, and she was so severely hurt that she had to be taken care of. I mean, she couldn't take care of herself. So she had to be in special care facilities for her remaining years. So she was actually the first center that they moved her to. She was actually at this first center when she woke up from her coma. So she did wake up. She did wake up from her coma. Doctors were surprised. They didn't expect her to ever wake up. Honestly, they were like, worse, and she made it through the night, and she won't ever wake up from the coma. But she continued to surprise them and woke up from her coma. But she continued to improve slightly. But she was in intensive rehab and therapy. She did manage to gain back a small amount of mobility. I don't think she was ever able to walk. She probably was in a wheelchair of some sort, but she could move a little bit, and she was able to hold short, basic conversations with people. But because of the extensive brain damage, Pauline, or Polly, everyone called her Polly, was her nickname. Polly knew that she knew that something obviously had happened to her, but as far as her remembering what happened, what took place, she couldn't remember. So she was never able to provide any details about her attack, or even about her attacker. She couldn't remember. She didn't remember any of it. So she knew something had happened to her, but she was never able to tell police any details about what had taken place. So her recovery, what was her recovery, actually was made even more complicated and even more devastating by the fact that she had this persistent infection. She had a really bad infection that she actually got from when she was at Grady Hospital, and she had to have a feeding tube surgery while she was in a coma at Grady Hospital. And apparently she had gotten an infection during that surgery at Grady Hospital. But the thing is that nobody knew that she had this infection. So it went undetected for a long time. And by the time that it was found out that she had this infection, she was already gravely ill. So she probably had like sepsis, which is blood poison, like basically blood poisoning. I mean, when you get the infection's in your blood, when you have sepsis, and more than likely you die from that if it's not caught in time. So by the time they discovered that this poor lady had this infection that she contracted at Grady, or got it at Grady somehow during this surgery, it was already too late. So, and she ended up passing away. She ended up passing away at the long-term facility, I'm pretty sure it was in New Hampshire, almost 15 years later. And she passed away on September 11th, 2010. So, and then, the doctors, after doing autopsy and all that, they say that she did pass away due to injuries that she sustained, the injuries that she sustained from that attack. So I'm positive that the APD actually reopened her case and now have classified it as a homicide. So she didn't die right away. She died 15 years later from injuries. So now there's two homicides. Aaliyah and Polly. They classified it as a homicide. And a little information about Pauline's personal life. She was quite accomplished. She was so accomplished. She did a lot of things. She was actually in Atlanta for some kind of meeting, or like, I don't want to say convention. It wasn't a convention, but it was like a meeting for physical therapists, because that's what she was. She was many things, but physical therapy was her main thing. And she was a teacher, and she was a lot of different things. She's very accomplished. But she was there. She was in Atlanta from Denver for something to do with physical therapy, some kind of meeting. She was born February 25th, 1939 in Barr, Vermont. Like I said, she was from Vermont. And her parents were Christine Cerasoli and Dr. Michael Cerasoli. So her father was also a doctor. And she graduated from Spalding High School in 1957. And then she went on to receive a Bachelor in Science degree in physical therapy. Physical therapy, like I said, from the University of Connecticut in 1961. And then after that, she went on to achieve her master's degree in education from Boston University. So, master's in education, bachelor's in physical therapy, And her teaching career, after that, she started teaching. Her teaching career actually started at Northeastern University, where she rose very quickly through the ranks to become the academic coordinator of clinical education. Very, I don't know what that title pertains to or what it encompasses, but Sounds very important. Academic coordinator of clinical education and acting chairperson of the physical therapy department. Now, during her teaching career at Northeastern, she actually was going to school, that school, Northeastern, at the same time that she was teaching. She was also studying to get her doctorate. So she was a doctor. She received her doctorate of education in rehabilitation administration from Northeastern. And then so she was a doctor. She had a bachelor's, a master's, and a doctorate. She then moved to Massachusetts to become the director of rehabilitation at Mass General Hospital, which is a pretty famous hospital. It's been the focus of several TV shows, hospital drama TV shows. Mass General, MGH. She also taught at the MGH Institute. Shortly after she took that position, that's when she chose to go to Colorado, to Denver. She chose to assume the directorship of physical therapy and also assistant dean of allied health at the University of Colorado. And that was in 1988, and this is where she was until she was attacked in 1996. And I do know that, I'm not sure which, probably the University of Colorado, they do a scholarship every year to a college student in her name. So there is a Pauline Cerasoli scholarship available, and I'm pretty sure it's through the University of Colorado that is done in her honor. So among her many interests, her personal interests were skiing. She did live in Denver, so there's a lot of awesome slopes in Denver. We're skiing, biking, golf, worldwide travel, and she was also a Red Sox fan. So yeah, those are her interests. Very accomplished, very well liked woman. Everybody really liked her, and she actually contributed things to this world and to society, and did a lot of good, and it's just messed up and ironic the way that she was killed, and because her focus was physical therapy and rehabilitation, and she would have known better than anybody how dire her situation was as far as a brain injury goes, because brain damage and brain trauma, that's the hardest injury to overcome as far as rehabilitation, and she knew that. So I can only imagine how horrible it must have been for her to understand this and realize this, that she's probably never going to recover. So it's so tragic, and it's just heartbreaking that this poor woman was living her life, and it was a good life, and she had it snatched from her for no reason whatsoever. It was just horrible. And she did have a lot of family. She had a lot of family that loved her, but she never married. She had never married, and she didn't have any children. So I did think I read something along the lines that she was dating. She had just started dating a man that was actually an old flame of hers, I think from high school or something. So, they had reconnected, and they were seeing each other, which is just adorable. It's adorable. But unfortunately, that didn't get to go any further. So it's just sad. It's sad. Poor Polly. I mean, I feel bad for her family. Soon after both of these attacks, the APD actually questioned a man named Sonny James Hamilton, and he was a Rock Hill, South Carolina construction worker who was in Atlanta around, earlier. I mean, he came to Atlanta. I don't think he was from here, but he frequented Atlanta a lot. But at the time of the attacks, he was a construction worker in South Carolina. He did, however, strongly resemble the composite sketch that I couldn't find, but he strongly resembled a composite sketch made of the suspect that witnesses had seen leaving the hotel after Aaliyah's murder. He was 23 at the time, and he had been convicted of simple battery stemming from an incident at the Westin Peachtree Plaza in 1993. So 2 years before Aaliyah's attack and 3 years before Pauline's attack, he did create havoc. Was at the Westin. He was at the Westin. He was arrested and had a charge. He was on probation actually for this charge at the Westin. So obviously he came to the forefront of possible suspects, because not only did he resemble the composite sketch that witnesses had given the description, but he had already done some, stuff at the Westin years previous. So yeah, he was he was the front running suspect in the police's mind. So they questioned him. According to police reports, and this is how we got this charge, Hamilton had chased two female guests to their room and was harassing them, and from the incident in 1993. And they claim that he chased them to their room, and that they went into their room, shut the door, locked the door, and that he had apparently had put the reports say teacup. I don't know, maybe there's a dining cart close by where he could snatch a teacup. Maybe he was living in a linen closet, I don't know. But he had a teacup and apparently was putting it over the peephole and then pretending to be housekeeping, but covering the peephole so they couldn't see out and see that it was actually him. And obviously they didn't open the door. But I think they probably called down the front desk and was like, oh, this guy's here, and they sent security up. So he also managed to turn power off to 10 of the hotel's elevators. Now, the hotel does have a lot of elevators. They have at least 12, I want to say 12, probably upwards 15 or more elevators. He managed to turn off the power to 10 of these elevators. I'm not sure how. There are electrical closets everywhere on every floor. I don't know where that would be. I mean, this sounds like this dude just roamed the hotel and went wherever the heck he wanted to go, and no one stopped him. I mean, I don't know. It was a long time ago, so maybe, I don't know. Not as much security, obviously, measures as there are today. But so he got in trouble for that. But he violated his probation on that, and I think he said that was a misunderstanding, is what he claimed. He said that the money that he was supposed to pay on probation, he did pay, but they're saying he didn't pay, so that's why he violated his probation. Said that it was a misunderstanding that he had to clear up. In either case, they issued a warrant. They issued a warrant for his arrest because to them he violated his probation. And he actually, once this warrant was issued, he actually turned himself in. He turned himself in for that warrant in March of 1996. So that's the month after Pauline was attacked. He turned himself in. He had a warrant out for his arrest. He turned himself in, and while he was detained from that, the police questioned him about these two attacks. They also asked him if he would submit to a polygraph test, which he did. He did submit to a polygraph test. He also volunteered samples of his DNA and hair and blood for comparison with the evidence that had been found in Aaliyah and Pauline's cases. So they didn't have to get a warrant for that. He agreed to do the polygraph test and give them his DNA. So Sonny says, now this is what Sonny says. Sonny says that he was told by a homicide detective that he had passed everything with flying colors, and this is his words, passed the polygraph with flying colors. The police chief at the time, the police chief Beverly Harvard, said, and I quote, "We're still looking at him. We haven't ruled him out or in." And Sonny also says, he says, I quote, "I whistled at them," meaning the two female guests, "and followed them. I'd been drinking and they said I scared them," end quote. So that was his take on the two females that claimed he tried to get into their room. He's like, "I was drunk and they were hot, so I followed him," which, men do, but it sounds like he's really downplaying the situation. It also sounds like they were really, they were scared, obviously. I mean, I would probably be startled too, but I'm a little bit more, I probably would have confronted him. If there was someone following me, I would have confronted him, and he wouldn't have been able to make it up to my room because I would have taken care of it way before that. But it sounds like he's downplaying the situation immensely. So, but he also says regarding the incident in 1993, he says he was framed. He says that none of that happened. He says he did hit on these two female guests. He says, but anything other than that never took place. He says he was framed by the hotel security guards. He says that the guards, after the two female guests called down to the front desk and they sent security up, he says the guards took him to a back area, put on surgical gloves, and took turns punching and slapping him. He also claims that they hit him with his own pool cue, which anybody who knows anything about playing pool, really hardcore pool enthusiasts have their own pool cue, and that is, the stick that hits the white ball. I don't know how to explain it. I play pool, but I don't know a good way to explain it. But a pull cue, if you have your own pull cue, it's two pieces. So you have this like long, maybe 2-foot case that you twist apart your pull cue, and then you put the two pieces in this case, and you carry it around. If you're going out to play pool. So apparently he had his own pull cue with him. I know there are pool halls. There used to be anyway in downtown Atlanta, because I used to work in downtown Atlanta. So I know for a fact there were pool halls. So he would have had a reason to carry his pool cue. But apparently the security guards beat him with his own pool cue. I wonder if they put it back. I wonder if they put it together, or if they each had a piece. I don't know. That's what he claims. He also denies the allegation that he threatened to return, because the police had said that the Westin, people had claimed that as they were taking him out, and the police said that he had yelled and threatened that he would return to the hotel and get everyone back for it. I'm going to get you for this. He claims that he never said that. That never happened. And he also says that he never shut off the power to the elevators. He said he didn't do that. So, I don't know. There's cameras everywhere now. I don't know if they had camera footage proving this. I don't know. But he says he didn't do any of that. Now when the AJC, which is the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, got a hold of Sonny's, people that when they interviewed people that knew Sonny, that were not necessarily family or friends of his, but just people that knew him, to talk to them. His girlfriend, he did have a girlfriend, his girlfriend's mother told police that Sonny had once broken her daughter's jaw. So then a friend of his girlfriend, I think a male friend of his girlfriend, said, and this is a quote, "He came close to killing her a couple of times. We've been fighting to get her out of that situation, but she won't leave," end quote. So, sounds like he's a violent dude. That's from two different sources. But you know what? His girlfriend claims that there's no way he could have done either attack, because he was with her in South Carolina. Now, it sounds to me like she's being abused, and that she is saying what he wants her to say. The classic abuser behavior, and whatever the person who's being abused. Of course, they're too scared. They're too scared to say anything else, because if he's beating her, breaking her jaw and things like that. She's too scared to say anything else. So sounds to me like it's classic. He's very violent, and she's doing what he wants her to do. So of course she would say that give him an alibi as far as that goes. So and I was able to also find this is interesting. Sonny's brother. He has a brother. Elmer Paul Hamilton is actually serving a life sentence for murder in Pulaski County, Georgia. So maybe I guess they're from here. Not from, I don't know where Pulaski County is, honestly. I don't know where that is. Never heard of it. So maybe they're from Georgia, I guess, apparently. So yeah, he would make sense for him to be in Atlanta then, I guess. His brother's serving a life sentence. In 1992, him and 3 other individuals kidnapped a man from a hotel and beat him to death with a pole cue before cutting his throat with a carpet knife. I don't know why after everything that they have on Sonny, you know, like I said, he says they passed, that he passed the polygraph test. The police have never come out and disputed what he said, so he must have passed it because they've never come out and said that he didn't. So, and they also have his DNA, and I'm pretty sure that if his DNA was a match to the DNA that they have on file collected from Aaliyah's and Pauline's attacks, that he would have been arrested and convicted of these murders. So the fact that they haven't done this yet leads me to believe that his DNA does not match. So he may be a violent jerk, but it doesn't appear to me that he was the one that committed these attacks. So if they have the killer's DNA on file, and I mean, you know, it sounds to me like this is if this is someone's behavior, this wasn't like a one-time only thing that happened. It sounds to me like this would be continuous behavior for somebody. So I find it hard to believe that this person's DNA is in CODIS, which is the national database for DNA for, you know, criminals. But I know that you also, you know, you have to be commit a certain type of crime and it be a felony and blah 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 in order to get your DNA put in CODIS. So maybe he hasn't been caught for anything else yet. But I don't know. I mean, they haven't. Like I said, Aaliyah's partner was cleared. I mean, obviously he didn't have anything to do with it. He's on the West Coast. And then Pauline didn't even have a partner. I mean, she was never married, and she was just recently dating somebody. So, you know, it wasn't by someone they knew. Basically, it was just random attacks on these poor ladies. So, you know, I mean, there's so much evidence. There's so much evidence in this case. I mean, they have DNA. They have witness descriptions, composite sketches. They have, I mean, just so many things. But yet, I haven't seen hardly any news coverage on this. Not too much, anyways. There wasn't much. So I'm confused as to why this hasn't been resolved yet. I don't know. I don't know why. Especially since there's DNA. I'm not sure why. And there has to be fingerprints, I'm sure. You know, at least in Aaliyah's attack, there's probably fingerprints as well. So, I don't know. When I was there at the Westin, I didn't see any security. There's no security. I also know that none of the stairwell doors were locked. You can use them, which I suppose they're not allowed to lock them because of fire and safety issues. You have to have alternative routes for escape if there's a fire. So, you know, that's understandable. But like I said, as far as security goes, there isn't any. There isn't any. I mean, people, I can see how the attacker could wander the hotel because there was no security or any measures being taken as far as I could tell. So you do need, like I said, you do need a key card to go up in the elevator to rooms, but you could hitch a ride with someone else. You can hitch a ride with someone else who has a key card. I mean, it's not difficult. It's not difficult. I did that just so I could briefly go up to the sundial before I was told I couldn't be up there, unless I wanted to pay for a very overpriced meal, which I didn't. So, and I didn't, like, my key card wouldn't let me go up to the sundial, so someone else had just happened to come in when I was in the elevator and use their key card, and it went up there. So, but going down, you don't need a key card to go down to the levels. So it's not difficult at all. And there's so many entrances. There's entrances to the different streets because there's it's surrounded by 4 streets on each side, and there's an entrance to each street. So, I mean, and like I said, I saw nothing. No security, none. So I guess they don't. They have not taken this seriously. I don't know why, because they're being sued by a lot of people. They're being sued by everybody. So many lawsuits against them right now. And I'm going to talk about that because these two deaths, or attacks, deaths, aren't the only ones to have taken place at this hotel. There are many more. Many more. And I'm going to talk about those briefly. Yeah. And so I think there's 4 more that I know of that I was able to find recently that have taken place. And all within the span of like a year and a half have taken place. So, and I think they're all, the families of all these people are suing the Westin and their parent companies, like a bunch of affiliates with the Westin. So the first one, which was actually, it was not recent, it was in 2001. And I couldn't find hardly any, there wasn't much on this one. On January 21st of 2001, a guest at the Westin, 19-year-old David Westcott, he actually entered the pool area, and this was, they saw this on surveillance tape. He entered the pool area. Now I know there's 2 different pools. There's 2 pools. Pools were closed when I was there, so I wasn't able to look at the pools. But there's 2 different pools. One's inside outside, and then one's all inside. So I'm not sure which pool area that he entered, but he entered the pool area around 7:30 a.m. alone, and he was alone, completely alone. He was from New York, and so he was there in Atlanta visiting. He's from New York, and he then apparently drowned. When authorities contacted his family told the police that he, in fact, could not swim. He didn't know how to swim. So I don't, out of all the deaths, this is the only one that I find suspicious and odd because they've all been classified as accidents. This is the only one that I've found, to me anyways, that appeared somewhat suspicious. I'm not saying it was murder, but I don't know if I would classify it as an accident because, I mean, his family said he could not swim. So what is this dude doing going into the pool area alone at 7:30 a.m.? Okay, and then he drowns? Usually if you're gonna, he's like, I'm gonna learn how to swim. Then you'll have a buddy. You'd have a buddy with you. Why would you go alone? I mean, it's just odd. It's very odd. It's very odd. And so I'm leaning, I don't know. I would definitely look at suicide as maybe option or murder. But I don't think that was an accident. Honestly, I don't. I really don't. Because it's too weird. The circumstances, it's too weird. But there was nothing. I couldn't find anything on this kid. Couldn't find anything. Okay, the next one. And this is recent, on Monday, March 21st, 2016. So this is not too long ago. A kitchen worker, another worker at the Westin, a kitchen worker at the Westin named Carolyn Robinson. She had went into one of the walk-in freezers, and she was locked inside. She was locked inside a walk-in freezer. When she didn't return home from her shift, from her normal shift, when she was supposed to return home, because she had kids and a husband and all that. Her family called the hotel actually looking for her, and the police were called, and they were going over surveillance tapes to see, because the hotel's huge. So they started looking at surveillance tapes is what they started doing, and they saw in the video, and obviously they started in the kitchen because she was a kitchen worker. They saw in the video that she had entered the freezer around 8 p.m. on Monday and alone, and she never came out. So then that's when they actually went looking for her, and she was found. She was found in the freezer, and so that on Tuesday morning. So she had been in there for 13 hours. She had been in there for 13 hours, and we're talking about like what was it, like 20 below, 20 degrees, negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's way below freezing. Yeah, so she froze to death. She was frozen to death. And it's very gross because they said that there were marks, blood, God, it's like a horror movie. Like there were scratches, bloody scratches on the door, like on the walls and the door from where she had tried to claw her way out. So she had tried to get out. Now, anybody who knows anything about industrial kitchens, restaurants, anyone who's worked in a restaurant, which I have, I worked in restaurants for like 20 years. I worked in restaurants, so I've been in restaurants and industrial kitchens extensively for a long time, and I know walk-in freezers. And never have I personally known anything like this to happen to anybody that I've ever known, to get locked into a walk-in freezer, because it's next to impossible. I mean, there are obviously safety features in place to stop that from happening. So, you know, there is an emergency. There's supposed to be an emergency. There is, in the freezers these days, emergency exit buttons on the inside in case the door closes. Which in all the restaurants I've ever worked at, they never closed. I mean, they were always like propped open a little bit, or like, you know, I mean, no one wants, it's like a, you know, in the back of your head, you're like, oh, I don't want to get shut in. So like there, you'd always prop it open with something. When you went in there, you prop it open with something. It's my experience, but you know, maybe in a hotel like that, maybe that was like a big no-no. I mean, I don't know, but she went in there, let the door close behind her. For some reason, either, I mean, I don't know. They were trying to see if maybe there was some health issue with her, to why she either meant like you know, mentally or physically, the reason why she didn't use this emergency exit to get out. So, because there's a button that you're supposed to be able to push that will release the door so you can exit the freezer. Now later, after she was discovered frozen in this freezer, they did the hotel and OSHA, which is the health and the safety administration that makes sure all these kitchens and hotels and whatever are up to code, basically. They're in charge of all this. Apparently, the Westin says that OSHA had come out to previous and after done tests, many, like over like 50 tests of this emergency button in this freezer, and that it was in working order. Now, I also read other accounts where some of the other workers at the Westin had claimed that they had also got locked in this freezer, and that they had luckily been able to get out because someone had heard them. They'd beaten on the walls of this freezer, and someone had heard their screams and them beating on the walls to get out, and they had been let out. But you know, there's workers claiming that, and then there's, you know, you got the Westin and OSHA, and they're saying button works. So I don't know. I know that her family is suing the hotel, and so I did nothing, and that's, like I said, been recent, so I don't think anything's come of that yet. Haven't heard anything else on that. Okay, and then another case of someone dying, also in 2016, on April 23rd, 2016, 10-year-old Stephen Akinlabi, I think I'm saying that right, Stephen Akinlabi, 10-year-old Stephen, was attending a friend's birthday party in the pool area of the Westin Hotel. He's somehow there were supposed to be two adult chaperones. I guess there were like 10 kids, two adult chaperones. These two adult chaperones were not paying attention, and he somehow ended up at the bottom of this pool and was there for a while before someone noticed. So, way to go, chaperones, not paying attention at all. He was on the bottom of the pool, was there for a while, and he was rushed to the hospital, Grady Hospital in downtown Atlanta, but he died from drowning. A few days later, it was actually a few days later, on the 27th, that he actually ended up dying. So that family is also suing the hotel, and I think in the lawsuit they included, they're also suing the two chaperones, the two adults that were supposed to be watching all these kids. They're suing them. They're included in the lawsuit. So I don't think anything's come of that yet either. Pandemic's really put a stop to almost all that. So nothing's come of that yet. Okay, and then on April 14th, and this is the one that I'm pretty sure everybody in the United States has heard of this, because it was a big, huge deal, and there was so much media coverage and so much news coverage. I mean, I remember when this happened. I had seen it on the news and how much attention it got, because, I mean, it is tragic. On April 14th, 2017, Charlie, a little boy, he was 5-year-old Charlie Holt, was with his parents, Rebecca and Michael Holt, having a late lunch up at the Sundial restaurant, which is sits atop the Westin in downtown Atlanta. And the sundial, like I said, revolves. It's a revolving, rotating restaurant. So it turns really slowly. I think it's like, it turns very slowly. But it does, I think, like if you eat a meal there, it turns at least one rotation, so you can see all of Atlanta. But it turns all the way around. It just keeps rotating and rotating. They were actually visiting, they weren't staying at the Westin, but they were staying in a different hotel. But they were from Charlotte, North Carolina, and they were visiting Atlanta. And they had decided to go to the Sundial for a late lunch, to eat lunch at the Sundial. Now, supposedly, this is what the police say. The police say that 5-year-old Charlie wandered away from his family's table and then got wedged in between a wall and a table as the dining area rotated. I think there's like a 4 or 5 inch gap between the wall and the tables and walls and whatnot. So, God, that sounds horrific. I don't know how this poor little boy got wedged very quickly. Apparently, got wedged in between and got stuck. And then the security staff, the Westin security staff, and the employees scrambled. And I have a picture of that. I think scrambled to free Charlie and stop the restaurant from rotating. By the time that this was able to be done, by the time they manually were able to shut down the rotation of this restaurant, and they finally were able to pull him free, he was already unconscious. He was unconscious and just, I don't think he was dead yet, but he was there, almost there. His poor parents had to see this. I mean, I think his father was like the one who finally was able to pull him free. That just gave me chills. I can't even imagine, because I have a 3-year-old, almost 4-year-old. Makes me want to about to cry. I can't even imagine having to watch that happen to my son. It's horrible. Man, that made me tear up. Man, anyways, like I can't even imagine the parents, like what they must be feeling, because that's just, I wouldn't, horrible. It's just horrible. Anyways, he was rushed to Grady, where he actually died. He died, on the way, I think, from his skull was crushed. So it's horrible. And you know what? I think that happened in 2017, and I don't think the sundial has rotated since then. They no longer. I don't even know if they plan on doing that ever again. It took them a few months to open the sundial back up as far as business goes, but I know that for a fact that they've hasn't rotated since then. So I don't know if they're ever planning on doing that again. I mean, it's a touchy subject, because of what happened. So obviously it's not safe. So it's cool, but it's not safe. And actually the family, the same year, 2017, filed a lawsuit, of course, against the hotel and its parent company, claiming negligence in Charlie's death, and that they allege that the restaurant failed to prevent a long-standing safety hazard that led to their son's death. So, and they quote, or this is what the lawsuit says, and the lawsuit quotes, I quote, "The sundial had no protections to stop children from getting close to the pinch point," is what they call it, or to stop the rotation of the floor if a child became trapped in the pinch point, the lawsuit says. And they also dispute that the claim that Charlie had wandered away from them. They said that that's not what happened. They go into detail about how exactly what they were doing, and they were actually exiting. They weren't sitting at the table. They were exiting the restaurant, and they were taking the route that the way the hostess had sat them. So, and the way to the restrooms as well. So they were on their way out. They say that the claim that he wandered away from the table and they weren't supervising him or weren't watching him, that was absolutely not the case, and that they were exiting. They were all walking along the exit route to get out of the restaurant. So, and that's when booth actually, the rotating dining area, a booth had actually rotated to where it blocked the path, and somehow, you know how little boys are. I mean, mine, Jesus, like he's so freaking acrobatic and quick. So, I mean, Charlie's probably tried to scramble across the booth, thought it was like a game or it looked fun, and then, because you know how booths, there's that space, the seat, and, that space, so maybe he tried to scoot across the booth and get past the rotating wall before it came around, but if it was coming opposite directions, and then it would, yeah. So that's what they say happened, was that this murder booth came and pinch point basically. So it's horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. God, poor kid. Ugh. Anyways, sorry. It's just horrible. It really is. It's so sad. Now, his parents, they've also established a memorial fund for Charlie. And I'm actually going to include the address of the bank where they've set up this memorial fund for their son. I'm going to include the address in the description box in case you want to donate to this memorial fund. And they did this in order to, and I quote, preserve his memory and to allow children to fulfill the dreams that Charlie himself was unable to experience, end quote. So, it's just so sad. I also have a son named Charlie. He's 7, but his name is Charlie as well. And this kid is so adorable. I'm gonna put up a picture. He's super cute. He's so cute. So I'm gonna include the address to this Charlie Holt Memorial Fund in case anybody would care to donate. And I'm not sure exactly what they do for kids, but like they said, give them experience, give a child an experience that Charlie wasn't able to have. So, those are the deaths that I was able to find so far at the Westin. But the Westin doesn't seem very safe now, does it? I mean, seriously. I mean, Westin's not the only hotel in Atlanta that's had crazy things, violent things happen. But the Westin's definitely up there with tragedies. Okay. The next case that I'm going to be doing, and this is going to be a difficult one for probably everybody involved, me and anybody who watches, because it's about a child, and that's never easy to talk about or deal with. Murder is never easy. It's all horrible and tragic, but it's especially for me and anybody who has parents or just anybody who has a heart. When bad things happen to little kids, it's always very emotional. So it's definitely going to be difficult for me to do. But I feel like I haven't seen too much said about this case, so I feel like it needs to be done, to be talked about. Somebody needs to talk about it. So I'm going to go ahead and cover a case of a little boy named Joshua Randall Harmon, and he was 8 years old. And on May 15th, 1988, this was in 1988, Joshua had went to a friend's house to play, to ask his friend if he wanted to play, and he never made it back home. His body was actually found a couple days later, only a few hundred yards. It was found a few hundred yards from the apartment complex where he actually lived, and this was in Roswell, Georgia, which is a little north, about 30 minutes north of Atlanta. So he had actually been struck in the head and also strangled. And that was 32 years ago, and it's still unsolved. So that's the case I'm going to be doing. Hopefully I will be able to dig up some information on this. And he was also, apparently a special education student. So I don't think there was anything. He had just had some learning disabilities, which I can relate to that because I have a son who also, he's dyslexic. But so I can relate to that. But he had some learning difficulties. But the pictures are so cute. But yeah, I'm going to be covering that. Hopefully I can dig up some things that, that no one else is. Find some things so we can talk about this. And try to get these solved. And of course you can call the GBI. Please, if you have any information on anything, please call the GBI. I think it's 1-800-597-8477. 8477. I could be wrong. I'm going to include the number in the description box, obviously. And also, if you want to be anonymous, you can go online at gbi.georgia.gov and leave a anonymous tip that way. Please, anything you can do to help. These cases, they need to be solved. There's no reason why they shouldn't be. No reason whatsoever. So thank you for sticking in there with me on these videos. Really, really, really appreciate it. And thank you for watching my channel. This is Jen Marie, and I'll catch you on the flip side.